Thanks. Okay. I call this meeting of the Zoning Advisory Committee to order at 5:31. Oh, that's the minutes. That is not the agenda. Sorry. Okay. Roll call. My vice chair is not here today, so here we go. Shannon Coley, not here. Polly Boardman.
Present.
Kristen DeHaan. Tyler Rogers is absent. Christine Holes present. Christy Essa. Here. Natalie Geisels. Adriana Publico. Lauren Rushing.
Present.
Amy Howe.
Present.
Darren Fleck.
Present.
Brooke Snyder.
Here.
All right, and we have quorum. All right, great. So we'll move on to item 2.01, approval of the minutes from December 15th, 2022. Does anybody have any discussion or amendments to the minutes? They're very detailed. Thanks, Martha. Good job. If there's no discussion or amendments, do I have a motion to pass?
Lauren Rushing, for the record. Motion to approve.
Approve, I mean, not pass, approve.
Polly Boardman, second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from December 15th, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Did you get all that? You're good. Okay. All right. Here we go. The big item. We're here for item 2.02, presentation, discussion, and possible action to consider the proposed enrollment zone adjustments for the 23-24 school year, which will potentially impact Proctor R. Hug High School and Robert McQueen High School. And I know Adam's going to point this out, but I just want to make sure everybody on the committee is seeing that this is one for possible action today, and also that it's for this school year coming up in the fall. So Adam's going to address that in his presentation. So Adam Searcy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Good to see you again. For the record, my name's Adam Searcy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the school district. As Chair Hall said, this evening's sole action item, aside from the minutes, refers to a potential zoning boundary change. I just want to highlight this is only pertaining to the high school enrollment zoning boundary. We'll talk a little bit about elementary school boundaries and middle school boundaries, but what's up for discussion tonight is only pertaining to the high school boundary. So, before we dive into what's proposed, I wanted to rewind the clock just a little bit because this obviously has been an area of action in the recent past, and I think it's helpful. It was helpful to me to do a little bit of this digging. So the current high school boundary, the current Hug High School boundary was adopted by the Zoning Advisory Committee in 2020, and ultimately the board several months later also in 2020. Those were the brush fire charts, the projected enrollments and potential changes with different schools coming into effect that you see on your screen. Obviously, at that time, the projected enrollment for the 22-23 school year that we're in now was 1,825 students at Hug High School. Obviously, those actions and projections were made pre-pandemic, and just a little bit of more history that I wanted to walk through. There's a lot of text on these slides. I'm not going to read them all, but I'll start off at the top talking about the Panther Valley rezone. Many of you were a part of those deliberations. A small portion of the North Valley's high school area, generally in the Panther Valley community, that was rezoned effective 2021 into the Hug High School zone. Since the original Hug High School zone was created, the opening of the Debbie Smith CTA Academy has been delayed by one school year, so that was a subtle change to what was originally projected. The third bullet there talks about sort of an internal decision to allow those incoming 9th and 10th graders who were going to be rezoned from Spanish Springs into the new Hug High School to variance into the original Hug High School a year in advance made a lot of sense to help those students achieve greater continuity through their high school years. But I think this is a noteworthy point attributing to, a more intense enrollment coming out of that North Sun Valley area. And then maybe most noteworthy here, the final bullet, many of the economic impacts over the last 3 years have seen housing affordability and apartment rates rise such that there is today 8.5% more total high school students living within the Hug High School enrollment boundary than there was in pre-pandemic 2019-2020. Thought that was a really interesting fact. Just a couple more facts that are influencing where we are today. I'm not trying to make any excuses. I'm a bit frustrated by the reality we're faced with here, but felt, if for no other reason, to better understand how we got here, that this was worth a little bit of time. The fact that Hug High School is designated as a Title I school requires that the capacities and the student-teacher ratios, the class sizes, be slightly reduced. That, on paper, impacts the total available capacity of that school. It's just sort of the way that works, part of that enrollment or capacity calculation. We do currently house this district's regional GT, or Gifted and Talented Magnet program, at Hug High School. Almost all of those students attend Hug High School on a variance, and that's about 120 students that are in that program. Special education services is a district-wide, even a national trend. We're seeing increased number of students requesting or being designated for those services. We're providing those services, and those come with additional allocations at Hug High School and reduced student-teacher ratios as well that complicate our ability to house a total number of students at Hug High School. And this final bullet, while not really impacting the point here, just wanted to highlight, we often talk about special programs and various other factors that affect our decisions, and variance is one of them. Aside from the GT program at Hug High School, there are actually relatively few invariances, far lower than the district average at high school. So just a few points. I mean, I'm not doing pluses and minuses, but I think if you were to do that, and yes, I have, but I'm not going to belabor it, it does largely explain the delta between the 1,800 and some students versus where we're at today, which is on the next slide. So really, this is where we're at today, or rather where we were at in October 2022, our count day on that first column, where we always start off right at about 2,300 students currently at Hug High School. And you can see a couple other high schools on this chart. Noteworthy on this chart, you'll see that vertical blue line at the start, or the left-hand side of the 25-26 school year. Of course, that's the anticipated opening of the new W. Smith Career and Technical Academy, and associated enrollment relief from all of our high schools. As we've talked about before, we expect to see students variancing from their zone schools into that school, and that's beginning in 25-26. And then, as we've also talked about before, the impending enrollment bubble, right? Some of the larger upperclassmen grades graduating with smaller grades replacing them. You can see all of the high schools projected to decline in enrollment as we proceed through the end of the decade. Also, just draw your attention to the red numbers. If you can see the color on those slides, especially associated with McQueen. For better or worse, they have 7 portable units, portable classrooms on their campus today, and that's going to play a factor as we go through the conversation. So this slide represents the existing enrollment boundaries. I think everybody's seen these before, but maybe for the good of the audience, I'll just highlight that the dark blue lines represent the existing elementary school boundaries. The colors represent the existing middle school boundaries, and the dark gold lines, best you can see them in some locations, represent the high school boundaries. So if you can make out that gold boundary, that's really what we're going to be talking about tonight, and particularly that blue or turquoise area kind of up north McCarran is the area that we're going to be focusing on this evening. I'm realizing now, Martha, that when I'm not running this, I'd like to talk with my hands a lot via the mouse on the screen. So, I don't know. Bear with me. Anyway, let's dive into what we're here to talk about tonight. This is all just orientation and history lesson. Thank you. Again, a lot of text. This is our way of really over-explaining this. But a couple of key points here on this next slide. We want to note that Hug High School is currently experiencing some short-term overcrowding. It's not severe, but it's at a point where it does warrant attention. And we want to highlight short-term. So looking at our options and trying to come up with a thoughtful appropriate response. So the next point, I think is noteworthy. Rezoning is not usually a short-term solution. And so we're going to talk about on this, the next point really discusses why this solution, in fact, is not a short-term solution. It's one that we've considered in the past and long identified as an opportunity for improvement. Really the fact that Clayton Middle School splits to 3 separate high schools today. A portion of the students that go to Clayton go to Hug High School. It's really what we're talking about tonight. Another portion go to Reno High School and another portion go to McQueen High School. And that's the type of stuff that we work pretty hard to try to improve upon. It's not always possible to eliminate. This particular recommendation tonight is one that we've nearly brought forward on an agenda prior to the pandemic, and again coming out of the pandemic. We've known about it, we've looked to consider it in the past, but either because of more urgent matters with new schools or more overcrowded schools that needed to be addressed, we haven't had the time. I want to really kind of emphasize that point that yes, this will relieve some enrollment, short-term enrollment issues at Hug High School. This is really something that's been long contemplated, and actually the 4th bullet on this slide indicates does have a continuation. So tonight we're focusing on really just one piece of the Clayton enrollment zone because it is really the most urgent as it interrelates with other schools, but that there are other pieces that this committee and the staff want to address likely in next school year. Okay. So zooming in on the area, you can see this a little bit more clearly. The most prominent left to right or east-west line, this is going to be tough without my little mouse up there. You can see I'm pointing right at McCarran. All right, that's McCarran Boulevard. Thank you. And the north-south line is Virginia Street. Not that one. There you go. So everybody can get their bearings there off of North McCarran and Rancho and Virginia Street. And then, of course, if you go over to the right, you can find your way to 580 or US 395, right? Everybody can figure that. And we got Parr Boulevard is the northern boundary of Peavine up there. Yeah. No, you're super helpful. Thank you. So interestingly, the area labeled as Elmcrest is not contiguous with the rest of the Elmcrest enrollment zone. It's a very unique, I can't think off the top of my head how many, if any, of those types of instances we have. That's not what we're here to discuss, but those two areas, obviously Elmcrest on the left, up North Virginia on both sides, and north of Parr Boulevard there, that's Elmcrest. And on the right, so to the east of North Virginia Street, to the north of McCarran, those communities are all zoned for Peavine. They're all in the same turquoise blue. They all go to Clayton Middle School. But then as you see that gold line going down, that's just a section line through the BLM property. And then going along McCarran, that's the Hug High School enrollment boundary. So that's what we're really here to talk about, potentially moving that boundary over to where the outline of the blue is and pulling those neighborhoods over into the McQueen enrollment zone, which is just on the other side or the left-hand side of that gold line. think this is a good slide also to highlight a point I'm going to make later, but taking a look at where the star in the green, the pink star in the green shaded area labeled DSCTA, that's the old Hug High School campus. And I think that's a relevant point when we talk about, how and why these neighborhoods were zoned historically for that high school campus, where that high school campus exists today, i.e. Wild Creek, the new Hug High School. Another reason why this reconsideration makes some sense this evening. So all told, there's about 137 students, current Hug High School students that live in these areas. Okay, so we've got a couple different options for consideration, but we're going to dive the deepest into option number 1 here. Option number 1 recommends or illustrates this entire area being rezoned from Hug High School to McQueen High School. So you can see percentage-wise, it's in the 6 to 8% range of their total enrollments. Again, about 137 students. You can see in the table down below that the recommendation to go into effect at the 23-24 school years represented by that red line. So you can see those enrollments coming down at Hug and up at McQueen. And then moving forward with the same projections. Obviously, this is not, relieving 100% of the enrollment, but it was more important to us not only to find a good balance, but to find actually a more permanent solution. This is actually less about relieving overcrowding or making some temporary enrollment modification, and really more about the long-term alignment of the students that go to Clayton matriculating together with their peers to a single high school. So on the map, this is what it looks like. Just zooming out from the slide that had all the dots on it that we were talking about in detail before, you can see those same areas kind of outlined with the dashed line with an arrow pointed at McQueen. This one gives you a little better perspective of where this area is versus the two different high schools. I spent some time thinking about this, why this area was zoned for Hug historically and now where Hug lives now over on Wild Creek. And even, just driving that stretch of McCarran myself and taking a minute today to count the number of stoplights. Miles tell a story, minutes tell a story, Google, etc. But, anybody that's ever gone from North Virginia to Wild Creek or Pyramid Highway, for example, knows that can be a bit of a slog through some 8 to 10 stoplights versus going the other way around McCarran. You're going to need to watch your speed because usually you're stretching it out a little bit through about 3 stoplights only to get from that community over to 7th Street to slide up to McQueen. So I wanted to highlight that as I was kind of like digesting the merits of this proposal. That actually seemed to resonate with me. So this is all just context. One more contextual slide relative more so to McQueen. We'll talk about the other high schools in a moment, but McQueen, this I've always found fascinating, despite the population growth in that school's enrollment zone, and there have not been any significant enrollment boundary adjustments during this time. McQueen has seen a very steady, long pre-pandemic trend of enrollment decline in their community, which is what it is. I highlighted previously the existing portables on that campus, and kind of wanted to just highlight the opportunity in the form of those portables to better accommodate what on paper appears to be basically 100% of their capacity as well, but also compare that to historical enrollments in the long-term trend and the kind of impacts that has on a school community as well. Yes.
So your percentages on here do not represent the additional 7 portables that are McQueen, the percentage. Those would just be extra.
That's right. Always an important piece to clarify, thank you for making that point. The numbers in the table, so for example, you know, McQueen High School this year has a enrollment October 1st of 1,639 students. That represents 93% of their maximum base capacity of 1,760 students. The 350 student capacity is 7 portable classrooms times 25 students per portable classroom. That is bonus and not included in this percentage. We do that intentionally to not misrepresent the permanency of that capacity. It doesn't increase the capacity of the parking lot, the gymnasium, the theater, the cafeteria. Sadly, those portables have been there for far too long. But when it says 99% of capacity at McQueen there and potentially 23, 24, that does not include the capacity available in those portables. Okay. So we didn't go into as much depth on these other options, but we felt that it was important to speak to them because they are, obvious as well. So to summarize, there's 2 other options that we wanted to at least speak to, taking these same neighborhoods, this same area, and either rezoning a portion, likely the Elmcrest portion to McQueen and the Peavine portion to Reno, or rezoning both neighborhoods entirely to Reno, just as in option 1, we're rezoning both neighborhoods entirely to McQueen. Both options are plausible from a mathematical standpoint. All 3 options would lower the HUG enrollment by the same amount, so we're neutral there. But really we felt strongly that they should not be presented for possible action, in large part, as I said, because of McQueen's current capacity and ability to better absorb the additional students. The access, we'll talk about that in a minute, that the clean access down McCarran and 7th Street to McQueen, but also on the bottom of this slide, the age and some of the other spaces within Reno High School, much narrower hallways, more stairwell corridor space that has been challenged even in recent years to absorb near their capacity. That just, sometimes we talk about this in enough meetings. The numbers don't tell the entire story, and we wanted to really highlight that rather than having it brought up. This other slide I thought was pretty noteworthy as well. From a transportation standpoint, these neighborhoods receive transportation to the current HUG High School. They would receive transportation to McQueen High School as well. It's actually a net neutral impact to the transportation department, just a rerouting of those buses. But trying to get those students on a school bus from North McCarran, Rancho, Parr Boulevard area all the way down into Reno High School, you're likely going right past McQueen on McCarran all the way down to Mayberry. You're probably not taking Virginia Street all the way down to Idlewild Park. So if you really look at the transportation route, even though, on a spreadsheet, it looks like the students could readily be accommodated at Reno High School, there's a few more challenges that really sour that potential option in our mind. This next slide just visually illustrates option 2. I think kind of makes the point a little bit about the transportation challenges to get all the way down to Reno High School. And then option 3, as it was defined on this slide, takes the 2 different neighborhoods to either high school. Again, we wanted to at least put those on the table and speak to them, but we didn't develop detailed analysis for either. This slide contains our guidance from the administrative regulation. We appreciate that. It often helps center our conversations when some indecision can arise. And then just a final few points that we wanted to also highlight. This item is recommended to go into effect next school year, which is more abrupt of an action and an impact to students and families than we're used to, than we prefer to do. And that's something, as I said, that has frustrated me and many staff involved, but we do feel is necessary for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about tonight. And so a couple of points, particularly around family outreach that we wanted to emphasize. We've been working with leadership at both schools, as well as identifying these students and developing plans to reach out to these students very directly and very warmly to help ease the transition, respecting that this change is better received over a longer period of time, asking for the grace to do it next school year, and mitigating that to the greatest degree possible through some of these steps. I mentioned transportation earlier. Teacher allocations was something that's been considered. Obviously, the number of students going from Hug to McQueen will result in the transfer of some teacher positions. These are vacant allocations currently that would just be assigned to McQueen and then filled at that time should this be approved. And then, of course, point number 4 really is the primary driver of this entire conversation, that currently Clayton splits to 3 separate high schools, and with action on this proposal would keep at least that community together to 2 overall. So that's the information that we have scripted for tonight. This is the specific wording of the staff recommendation, again, from Hug to McQueen as depicted in option 1, effective the 23-24 school year. Thanks for listening. I'd be happy for any questions.
All right, we definitely have some public comment, it looks like, but we'll start with any questions or discussion from the committee.
Hi, Adam. Christy Essa for the record. So I'm just curious, Peavine is split between Hug and Reno High. What would your recommendation do as far as Peavine is concerned? Does that change Peavine at all?
Nothing tonight affects the Peavine enrollment zone or the Clayton enrollment zone. The split at the high school level that does go along McCarran in between or through the Peavine zone. Instead, right now Peavine splits between Reno and Hug, and it would change in this recommendation to split between Reno and McQueen.
So it stays a split feeder?
At that level, yes.
Okay.
I think, this is Christine Hull for the record, I think that's what Adam was mentioning we're going to address in the fall, that we're going to do some cleanup of that area, that we're just addressing the high school portion of it tonight, right?
Yep.
Any other? All right, I think we can take some public comment. We did receive an incredible plan from the principal of McQueen, so thank you to your staff and for creating this. So I do want to put this out there for anyone watching. Thank you to McQueen for really thinking through the welcoming process of this change. For anyone who's worked in schools, this is a really busy time for incoming 9th graders. They are currently visiting the high school that they would be attending. They've already done registration. And so we do know that this is a critical time for those incoming 9th graders, but also for any students in high school. They've already selected their classes for next year, and they're already really looking at what that means. So this impacts them a lot. So I do want to mention, and I don't know, Mr. Holbrook, are you going to speak to it? Okay, we'll just let you speak to your plan, and then we can ask questions of your plan and how you're going to welcome these new Lancers, hopefully. All right. So, Martha, you want to start calling?
Yes.
Thanks.
Freeman Holbrook.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me, Freeman Holbrook, principal at McQueen High School, for the record. I want to quickly just introduce a group of individuals that came with me today. I have Dan Schreiber, who's my assistant principal over facilities and athletics. I have Christy Amundsen, who is my vice principal over curriculum and really is busy right now with that master schedule you mentioned. I have two counselors here, Caitlin Longland and Brandy Parnell, who will be helping kind of transition some of these students and get them registered as soon as possible. I have Lucas Weber, who's our athletic director over at McQueen High School. And then I have Jana Arnold, who is our German teacher. And I also have Liz Nicklin, who is our family graduate advocate. And the reason I wanted to introduce them is because they're on the team that I sent you guys earlier today. And we call them the Cozy Team. And so they are there to welcome these young minds. And they have put together this plan that you guys have in front of you. I have other copies of it too that we kind of updated some things on we can send to you. We know that the dates, this is kind of a waiting game for us right now. We thought it was important, though, to get the team together and get a plan ready. We're well aware that when, with the time frame that's up there, that when it's time to go, we need to be ready. So we've done that right now. We feel very prepared to welcome them. And we will, once we get the word, we're ready like that. So that being said, I just wanted to quickly tell you guys too, real quick, a story of two different students. We have student one who goes to elementary school for 6 years with the same friends and families. They build strong relationships and the parents get to know each other. They play on the same sports teams and participate in the same clubs and music and so on. In 6th grade, these students go to middle school separately from their friends, and they have to start the process of making new friends and building new relationships. This is not an easy process for students and families, and it creates a sense of stress and anxiety for the student. Nonetheless, the student and the family persevere and create new bonds with new friends in a new community. Then we do it to them again in 9th grade. We split the students. They go to a new school. They don't know how to socialize. They become disconnected with the school at times. And then we have student number 2 who follows a little bit of a different path. They go to elementary school with all their same friends, and then they move on to middle school and high school, and they get to continue building relationships and bonds. And the reason I bring this up, and I know I'm running out of time, is when our committee met, it was eye-opening for the staff that was in there, because we invited some students, and some students spoke to this, and it was something that we were extremely unaware of. And so now that we are aware of it, we're excited about the opportunity, and we hope that this works out, and we are absolute support of it. Thank you.
Just wants to beep at you. Don't worry. I think Martha's got it. All right.
Pablo Duran?
Good morning. So I do support this. Good morning. Good morning. I have mental issue. You see me in mass. You see me. I'm crying. Yep. Last Tuesday, you saw me public comment last Tuesday. So here we go. So I do support this agenda from Hug to McQueen High School because of I subbed a Hug. And I was experienced of overcrowded, of how the classroom overcrowded, more than 40 kids in a classroom that need to be relieved overcrowded at Huck High School. And I do support this agenda to rezone this area to McQueen High School. And I did match it. I did write email to you many years that this one need to be rezoned to Trainer or Desert Sky. But I was wrong, but because overcrowded, this one needs to be zoned to McQueen High School. And how about, don't forget Camp Point now? Yeah. So how about this area over here? This one could be rezoned because they live in the same community. You see it on the Schuster Street, you live in North McCarran over here. Over here, I think this one should be reconsidered rezoned to McQueen High School below. Get rezoned to Peavine or MCRAS and McQueen High School from Desert Sky or Allen Med School. So rezoned to McQueen High School. I think that the proposal will make will increase the social impact of a student that can go to Reno and McQueen High School, rather than going to Hug High School. So if that proposal we're in May, so why not wait until 2024, 2025 school year instead of next year because of a registration, all kind of stuff. They already picked the registration at Huck High School, who attended Creighton Middle School to go to Huck High School. About, oh, I'm going to Huck High School, and then the post changes. They say, oh my gosh, they're not going to Huck High School. So that impacts a lot of students for this area. And also, when this proposal was made, Pine will be only one middle school that has split to 3 different high schools. So,
Thank you.
Liz Nicklin?
Hi. Thank you all for being here. My name is Liz Nickland, and I am the Family Graduation Advocate at McQueen High School. Part of what I do is my role as a Family Graduation Advocate is helping families and students to get to the finish line. In other words, help them to get on track to graduation. I work closely with counselors, with teachers, with students, with families, with other nonprofit organizations, local and federal, state, as well as other school administrators. And part of that, I do it by communication and collaborating with all of them, right? In order for me to go ahead and create new innovative opportunities to remove any barriers for students to go ahead and stay on track to graduation. But most of all, I also am a big part of the picture that sometimes is often forgiven by others, by looking at what else is behind at student face, right? Sometimes it's important for me to go ahead and ask students, how are you doing today? Which most of the time, sometimes we forget that we're all humans. And that's part of the role that I create at McQueen, and it's important for me. I want to make sure that these proposals passed, because I think it's important not just for the students, but all those families. And I'm here to advocate as a family graduation advocate, but also to be a voice for everyone, all the students, all the families. And that will really make me really happy. It will really impact a lot of good families in a good way. I'm sorry. So with that being said, I welcome all families. We are ready for you guys. And I'm really excited for this opportunity. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you for your advocacy for students.
Thank you.
I feel like we have a lot of people who are doing that at your school, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment?
Brandy Parnell?
Hi, my name is Brandy Parnell. I'm a counselor at McQueen. To be very clear, I'm in full support of option number 1. At McQueen, thinking about these new students coming in, it's not like, oh gosh, how much more work is this going to cause? In fact, we really celebrate this, and we want to treat these students equally as we have already served our incoming Clayton students, not as if they are a burden to us. Like, we plan to go there and present to them the same as we did our other students, so that they have the equal kind of experience and welcoming to McQueen. A really huge benefit to our school in receiving these new students is our allocations. So maintaining a certain number of allocations in our school will certainly help to serve these students, these incoming students, as well as our existing students. As an example, if we lost our counseling allocation, that would increase the counselor caseload tremendously, which does not allow me to give my students as much individual time. So maintaining our team of 5 counselors, in theory, reduces our caseload. it would still be a lower caseload than counselors at HUG have. And there are some tremendous counselors at HUG, but when you have such a high caseload, you only have so much time in the day to meet with your students and serve them properly as they should. So maintaining those teacher and counseling allocations are so important because it benefits our new students, which we are so excited for, and it benefits our existing students. And just to be very clear, once again, like, we have put a tremendous amount of thought and planning into welcoming these students. That includes current student advocates on our team that have given us inspiration on how to really welcome them with open arms. So we will treat them equally as our other students, welcome them, but it really will impact not just these new students, but our students as a whole, our student population as a whole. And it makes sense on paper, right? Like if you see an overcrowded school and then you see a school with diminishing numbers, on paper it makes sense. But of course, we're not talking about just numbers. We're talking about students and families behind that. But we will embrace them into our Lancer Nation, as we say. So in my mind, there's no doubt that students will thrive, they will be welcomed, and we will serve them at a greater capacity at McQueen than what they could at HUG simply because of overcrowding and higher numbers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you do.
Caitlin Longland?
Hi. So I'm Caitlin Longland. I'm also one of the counselors here at McQueen. And I think what I want to emphasize is the sense of community we can bring for these students. I think Mr. Holbrook, really pointed it out. I was a student who went to so many different schools, and I can talk to the experience of not having a stable place, having to make new friends. And it takes a lot. Like in the counseling field, you really learn about the effect it has on students long term to not have consistency, to not have stability. So if we're able to, do this long-term trajectory of rezoning and giving these students, the same community, the same friends, the same families they get to grow up with, that's one less, obstacle that we're taking away from them possibly. And I think at McQueen we're ready to take them on. We want to bring, them with open arms. We want to give them the same opportunities. We want to build, just a strong, I'm going to keep saying it, strong sense of community and connection to these students, because I think with the smaller sizes, we can build those relationships with them. We can see the needs that they have, and can we meet those needs? Yes, and we can with smaller population size where maybe those needs are not being met, or maybe we're causing more needs that need to be met by giving them more transitions. And I think we all know kids, when they have too many transitions, it really affects them long term. So I just want to speak to the fact that us as a team here at McQueen, we're ready to take on all the kids for whatever your guys' decision is. And we're super excited. I'm full support. I know the rest of us are in full support, and you're going to hear that echoed. So I just wanted to give that comment.
Thank you.
There's no more public comments.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? If I could ask Lauren a few questions. And admin from McQueen, stand by for a second. So I have a question about any communication that may have happened so far with families. We have obviously a lot of staff who are really excited, but we haven't really heard a lot from families. So has any of that happened? And then my other question is about athletics and activities. So I know the athletic director is here, so I want to make sure, because we're going from a school that's in a different division, so I want to make sure that that's been communicated to the families, or what's the plan for that to make sure that those kids have all of the same athletic and activity opportunities.
So, communication, for the record, Lauren Ford,
Thank you,
Area
Lauren Ford.
Superintendent. So for communication, we did the traditional messages about a discussion happening tonight.
Okay.
And all impacted families were contacted. Clayton has informed them. It went out from Clayton, so the parents knew about it. So for athletics and activities, we do follow the guidance from the NIAA. And so students who are currently enrolled at HUG, and if they were playing I might need your help, Lucas.
Okay,
Thank you.
he can come up. That's okay.
If they're currently playing varsity level sports, they would opt to stay at Hug.
Okay.
Because they're already at the varsity level. If they were to transfer back to McQueen, they would have to sit out 180 days, correct? Currently.
Yes.
Currently.
Under this.
Under
It would be
this.
a different recommendation. They
Un-
would actually be able to, thank you.
If rezoning is clear, if rezoning goes, they are automatically eligible. They don't.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
If
Thank
we
you.
approve
That was the
rezoning
question.
at the board meeting, they are automatically allowed to play at their new school site.
Because they're not on a variance.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And then all incoming ninth graders, of course, will be, can try out for any sports or any activities offered at McQueen High School.
But if a student opts to stay at Hug,
Mm-hmm.
they will be on a variance, but they would be exempted because of the board regulations.
They would be on what
They
I
would
think
be
we
allowed to
called
stay
like
on
the
varsity.
rezone, the
Okay.
rezoning variance, they
Okay.
can stay. Mm-hmm, yep.
Okay. All right, any other activity questions while we have our athletic director here?
Something we are doing to get, sorry, Lucas Weber, the athletic director at McQueen High
Yes,
School,
thank you.
for the record. Something we are doing too is 8th grade athletic night, which we will invite all of our Clayton students and Billinghurst students to kind of get the word out to them about what activities we have. All our coaches come to that as well, so the students can actually meet the coaches, get information from them for preseason information, practices, tryouts, things like that. Just so that word is echoed really early on for all students and families.
And so the 120 or so students that are currently at Hug that are 9th, 10th, and 11th graders would also be invited to that night, or would on this list would that be a different evening for athletic information?
Right now, we're still kind of coming up with that plan.
Oh, okay.
But I would like to kind of either invite those students or us go and reach out to those students, and allow them the opportunity to come to the school.
I think that's what.
Come on up. It's okay. These are all big questions. Yeah, it's fine.
So what we've I'm Dan Shriver, assistant principal over athletics at McQueen. What we've talked about is the 8th grade night, inviting the Clayton kiddos, everybody coming over for that.
Sure.
For the kids that are already enrolled at Hug, is we would go over there
Okay.
to talk to them. So that's kind of in the works right now. We're just kind of waiting to see where this all goes so we can move
Got
forward
it.
to the next step. That is a dialogue we're already having.
Okay. All right. Great. And then same with activities, anything that's already,
Anything activity clubs, anything we do, ROTC, all those things are in the wings. We're just kind of waiting
okay.
for the word.
Because I know that's a big
Yeah.
deal in high school. It's a big deal to stay active and involved.
Are there any activities that HUG provides that McQueen does not?
Other than the GT program, I really can't think off the top of my head that there's one single thing. If you go across the board with, and we have 64 clubs, ROTC, drama, bands, choir, all those things we share with HUG. Most of the high schools have those,
Okay.
but other than the GT program, I think is about the only thing.
Okay. I can't. Can you think of anything?
That was a really good question.
Okay. From a teacher standpoint, do you have anything, teachers? No? Okay. I think
Lauren Rushing for the record. I have a question about the registration and the classes. So for those 8th graders who have registered for their high school classes, would they be in all of the classes that they had already registered for?
do we want to have the counselors come back up to the, yeah.
So what I actually did
Neil
is
is like
Okay.
dying that we're not doing this right. Sorry.
okay. Is it recording?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. So something that I had done is I reached out to a staff member, another counselor, and I looked at the course incoming selection form and compared it to ours. And the classes that are being offered are very similar. So we're coming up with a plan of deciding, do we, reach out to the HUG counselors and grab all the course forms that the kids have already done so they don't have to redo it? Or at our welcome back night that we're going to create for these students is we are going to either sign them up right then and there, have them, meet their counselor, give them our course selection, which, like I said, resembled the HUGs already. So they
Okay.
kind of know what they need. Give them our course catalog, be there open for them. So that's kind of our plan moving forward. And then the same would be for those current HUG students. We would ask requests for their forms and see what we can match. Because like I said, most of the classes were very similar for what they had in their course selection catalog versus ours.
Okay. I know that with the new building, there were some specialized, like CTE type courses. So I don't know if Lauren would respond to this. Sorry.
I can, I'm over CT as well.
Okay, come on back up. You just have to be on the mic so that it's getting us. So I know, obviously you guys don't have like welding at your school. We know that.
I have the best CT instructor in the district. He is actually
So-
certified in welding wood.
So will you
So-
make sure that's turned on just so that it's recording? Yeah, thanks. We just got to make sure we're following open meeting law here. I got you, Neil. I got you. So we just want to make sure that the kids that are taking those specialized classes are also being worked with, because I know you guys have looked a lot at the incoming ninth graders, and I really appreciate that because that's a big transition. I just went through it with my own child. But we've also got current 9th, 10th, and potentially even incoming 12th graders that would be going through this. So we want to make sure that that's just, I'm just throwing it out there, that that would be part of the planning process as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other curriculum questions? Okay. All right. I think you guys are good. Thanks for coming back up to the mics.
Christy Hester for the record. I just wanted to say that I have a student that is going to be going to McQueen High School, so thought I needed to say that.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Any other discussion? All right. We can entertain a motion. Say I motion that.
This is Christy Hester for the record. I motion that the Zoning Advisory Committee recommends to the Board of Trustees the rezoning of the portion of the Hug High School attendance zone as shown in option number 1 to McQueen High School effective beginning school year 2023-2024.
Do we have a second?
Brooke Snyder, for the record, I second that motion.
All right. Do we have any discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. Motion passes. So next steps are we take this to the Board of Trustees, and I believe that's in early April. So hopefully we can get you guys an updated calendar for all of that if the Board of Trustees approves it. Adam?
Yeah, just highlight tentatively, we'll look to agendize this at the Board of Trustees for April 11th. It's their next regular meeting. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other public comment? We're moving on to item 3.01.
Yes, we do. Pablo Nava Duran.
Hi, Pablo.
Good morning. So okay, I'm gonna start over. Hello, thank you again. So my first public comment of a day. So here we go. Yeah, thank you for the leave for Huck High School. I know this is unexpected happen in a pandemic, a high cost of living, and then now Huck will have a 2 feeder school instead of 3. Huck just got not created anymore. That belonged to them. So, so I know that this is not perfect on the map, so I think that this area a little bit over here need to be like maybe fixed in the near future. Hopefully in the near future. So now Creighton will have the split to 2 schools. So I heard it say like all middle schools should be single to zone for the single high school, but there are 4 high school. 2 are split to 2 high school. 2 are split by currently 3 high school. For next year, when this board of trustee will pass of this proposal, now it's going to be 3 middle school that go to high school. Sky Ranch go to Weed and Smash Green. Dilworth, Reed, and Sparks High School, Creighton, McQueen, and Reno High School. Now, it's going to be one school, one middle school that's split to 3 different high schools, which is Pine Middle School. So, I'm not sure what the change will look like for the next couple of years because of I heard they're going to build a new Vaughn Middle School over here. So, I'm not sure what the new zone will look like. So stay tuned.
No other public comments.
All right. Well, with that, we are adjourning at, whoa, guys, that was a record. 6:25.
Yeah, of course.